Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is White Rice Wednesday afternoons, time for my Survivor recap. So, big premiere night on Survivor, and I feel like it was probably one of the most intense, probably one of the more better premieres we had in a while. So, first starts off, we get to see all the different personalities out there. We all get our own first impressions of the game. Um, right away, I see Marianne. She seems super bubbly, and that's great. I'm glad she's a positive person, but that could also backfire on her because her being so bubbly and out there, some people might find that annoying and they might want to try to get her out. Um, they're talking about how, it takes everything. You got to win this game. You have to be you have to be a challenge beast. You have to win challenges. You have to um, find advantages. You have to play the social game. It's a whole big formula to winning Survivor. So right off the bat, they get to their first challenge. They had to do a race and untie paddles, and then they had to get everybody in a boat and tie bamboo sticks together to try to get a key. And if they won, they got a pot, flint, and machete. And we see that as soon as they're on the beach, the second round, it's Drea, Lindsay, and Hai, and they have a decision to make. They have to see if they can work together and earn an advantage, and they get this immunity amulet, and I'll tell you how it works later because it's quite interesting. But Blue ends up winning that, and Daniel got injured, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, do we already have a medevac on day one? And he's like saying he popped his shoulder out, so that could potentially be a game-changing move for him in a sense that he could be voted off because his tribe might think, well, he's a liability. But they were able to pop it back in, and he was good to go. So on the Blue tribe, Swati, it says how she's in the National Guard and how her family values prepared her for that. And she also mentioned how women tend to get voted out early on Survivor. Women have a hard time playing Survivor. We get voted out early, then we're seen as weak if we win. I mean, I'm not going to get into a whole discussion about it because I can make a separate video about that anytime. But Tori made a pretty dumb move off the back. She went by herself foraging for, I guess, taro. I think that's what they said. And she was gone too long, and she's like, I have to give her credit. She made a good cover story saying she's going to go look for this, but she is also going to look for an idol. And I'm like, that is Survivor 101. Never, ever, ever look for an idol on the first day. So I'm like, what a fucking dumb move on her part. So on the Green tribe, they're talking about we get the savvy or was it savvy or sweat, I think. I know I probably said it wrong, but either have the visual puzzle, which is the triangle thing again, or you have to have one person. It's one person this time. Last season it was two. Have to go and get water and come back, and they have 4 hours to complete it. And both of them, Green and Orange, decided to do the triangle puzzle, and they both guessed. They had 2 tries. Last time they only had 1 guess. So Green guessed 51 and 50, and Orange guessed 51 and 52, and 51 ended up being the number, so they were able to get a second chance and win the material they need to build camp. So on the Green tribe, Mike has to overcome a little adversity because he's an older guy, and usually older contestants on Survivor are also one of the first people voted out, and he's, you know, a big muscular guy, so one's first impression of him might be like, oh, he's this tough guy, he's, you know, he's like a real hard ass, but once you get to, he wants to show that, like, once you get to know him, that's not who he is. Like, he's a true, genuine person. And Roxroy is upset that people aren't helping around camp. I mean, you have I would be pretty pissed too if you're trying to build a shelter and you have 3 people over there talking about fucking butterbeer at Universal. I'm like, now I love butterbeer as much as the next person, but this isn't Hogwarts. This is the game of Survivor, so there's a time and a place for butterbeer. But Roxroy, he's coming across as annoying because he's taken that leadership thing too seriously. I mean, I'm all for taking charge in certain things, but there's a way to go about it, and he's coming across as annoying. So Juria walks away to see what exactly the advantage is, and it's what I mentioned before, the advantage amulet. And basically it's this new thing they added in the game where they all 3 of them have it, but each time somebody's voted off, it gains power. Like right now, all 3 of them have it, so right now it's an extra vote. If somebody's, let's say for conversation's sake, voted off, there's 2 left. 2 people means that they get to steal a vote. If only 1 person out of that 3 that have it are left, then it becomes an idol. So now it's like they thought, oh, maybe we have built these relationships on other tribes, which is good, but now the downside of that is they're the only ones that know that they have that idol. So if the advantages from last season are going to be repeated in this season, then we're going to see that the advantage Liana had to ask a question, if this person has an idol or an advantage, they could take that away. So yeah, the last time they can use it, which is the same usually for any idol or challenge, is when there's 6 people left in the game. On the Orange Tribe, I gotta have a lot of respect for Jackson. He opened up with his story saying that he's a trans guy, and, you know, his family wasn't accepting at first, but then they came around and he was able to repair the relationship with his family. But I have to give him major props for willing to be that open with everyone. I mean, that definitely takes a strong person to do that, because, you know, unfortunately in this world, people aren't accepting to others that are different. So it's also pretty bold to share that, because it shows that he has a lot of trust in his tribe mates, but then also too, unfortunately, some people could use that against him, and they may not want to sit next to him at Found Tribal because they don't want him to have a lot of times people don't want to sit next to somebody who has the more inspiring story, who's got the good inspiring story, and Jackson would definitely have it. On the Green Tribe, they seem to have their each duos. There's not like one big alliance. Like Chanel and Daniel seem to be a duo. Lydia and Hai seem to be a duo. And also too with Daniel, somebody asked about, I guess, a scar he had. He said it was a cancer scar, and he had childhood leukemia, and it's just amazing that he survived leukemia. Now he's out here playing Survivor. Like, whether Daniel wins the season or not, he's the true survivor for overcoming that and being here. So major props, Daniel. The blue team, Zach and Romeo seem to be what they call making a skinny guy alliance, and yes, they seem like they might be a good pair together. And now, because Tori went to look for an idol, now people don't trust her. So a boat comes, and one person has to go on the boat, as it was last season, and Marianne, Jenny, and Drea decides to go, and it's a summit like last season. And they have to, get to know each other, and then they have Marianne opened up too, and I really felt connected to Marianne because she said how she was a weird kid growing up, and she was afraid to go on the bus because she was bullied in school, and she wants people to see her story and show that, like, don't change who you are and everything, and how she had self-esteem issues, and I still have self-esteem issues to this day, and I definitely think that Marianne is an underdog, and I mean that in a good way. But I feel like she's going to have a really good growth arc, whether she wins or not. She's going to have a really good underdog story, and I feel like a lot of people are going to be inspired by her story. So, the Risk the Vote and Protect the Vote are back, and how it works is if they all choose to protect their vote, nothing changes. But if they all risk their vote, they'll lose their vote. But if it's a split decision, the people who risk their vote will get to have an extra vote, and the one who chose to protect their vote, nothing changes. So Jenny decided to protect her vote, and Marianne and Drea decided to risk their vote. So now Drea has 2 advantages in episode 1, so that's impressive. So on the Orange Tribe, you see another boat coming, and I'm thinking to myself, they just had the boat thing, so are they having a second one? That doesn't make any sense. And Jeff wants to have a one-on-one with Jackson, and I'm thinking, oh, is this another Terry Dietz where, like, he has to be pulled because somebody in his family's sick? And it was very complicated. He said, like, when you sign up for Survivor, you have to disclose, like, if you have any medical issues, because I'm going to assume, like, if you have certain medications you need to take out in the game, like, they can provide that for you. And I guess what happened was that Jackson didn't disclose something at first, and he decided at the last minute to disclose his issue, and that he needs lithium. And he said it's important to talk about everything. So maybe it's my own ignorance and naivety, but can somebody please explain to me what it was? Like, is he saying that he needed that in order to transition, or is that a thing he needed to cope, and he became lithium dependent? But Jeff ultimately decided, because I think he decided that they couldn't give him lithium, and because of that, his body's being really affected by that, so he ended up being pulled from the game. Like, he didn't quit. I think that's what you would call it, because he most certainly didn't quit, but medical didn't come and get him, so I would call it that he was pulled from the game. And, everyone's upset. It's an upsetting thing to do, and I always say, like, it's one thing to get voted out, but then it's a totally different thing when you're pulled from the game. Like, for medical or something, like, there's nothing worse than that, especially when you're the first one out. And I think Jackson's story was inspiring. I feel like he's going to inspire lots of people. And I thank Jackson for coming out to play the greatest social game of all time, and you're amazing, and I hope we get to see you play again. But the game goes on. So on the immunity challenge, they had to jump off this water platform and dive and go to these boats, and then they had to swim to shore and they had to push the boat underneath this mat, and then they had to solve a dragon puzzle, and I love the dragon puzzle. And the shot in the dark is apparently back, so I'm hoping more people use it so they could kind of explain, like, how it works, because I know there was a lot of confusion last season as to how it works. Orange wins, green comes in second, and blue goes to tribal. Last premiere, it was the only one person could come in first. The other two had to go to tribal, but I think because Jackson got pulled from the game, that it was only the last person had to vote somebody off. So Blue is up in the air about who to vote off because Drea said Jax and Roxroy didn't pull their weight in the challenge. They said that when she was up front pulling, Roxroy was just sitting there and they weren't pulling, basically, literally were not pulling their weight. Andrea is pretty pissed about that. And Tori tries to make it clear that she doesn't have an idol and she's trying to, make it, put the threat to somebody else. I mean, shift the thinking towards somebody else. And Romeo wants Tori gone because he believes that Tori's very sneaky, but Swati and Roxroy want Zach gone, and Romeo isn't sure what to do because, they just have formed this alliance. So you get to tribal council and they say how early it is in the game and, how different times in the game, they make different moves. They said everyone was pulling their weight, but then they literally just said that they weren't, so that was a little bit confusing. They were talking about how Tori shouldn't be trusted at all, and I personally don't think she should be trusted at all. She seems very sneaky, and the way when she was talking of Zach, they were just clearing the air and just having a talk, she muttered, "Yeah, good job with the puzzle today." I'm like, that was a bitchy thing to do. So Zach ends up using his shot in the dark, and he is not safe. And he ended up being, I guess, technically the first person voted out because Jackson was pulled. So yeah, when you first meet Zach, I definitely got Adam Klein vibes from him. He definitely seemed a lot like Adam in the sense that they talked the same. They had like a similar... They looked similar, and they were both super fans. Like, Adam was a super fan. He still is a super fan to this day, and he seemed very likable, but Zach screwed up the puzzle challenge, which, if that's essential in the game, if you screw up the puzzle challenge and your team loses because of that, well, odds are you're probably going to be on the chopping block. So yeah, really good episode. I really like Marianne. I feel like she's gonna have a good season. There's a lot of different characters. We didn't get to see much of an edit for yet. I don't like Tori. I don't like her one bit. I feel like she's gonna be. There's always one person each season I can't stand. I feel like Tori's gonna be one of them. There's just something about her that I don't like and seems very wicked. I'm not sure, but comment down below what you thought of the season premiere. Hope you guys enjoy season 42 of Survivor. If you want to catch Survivor, it is on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on CBS, or you can watch it live on Paramount+. Until next time, stay regal.